Today we are grading lesson 23, problem set. So for number 1, you had to decide if 1 2/3 plus 2 1/6 was equal to 3 5/6, and you had to drive fractions to common denominators to add or subtract. If you did that work, you would have found out that it does indeed equal 3 5/6. So that would be true. To make it false, which was the other part of the directions, you need to you could say any number except 2 1/6. So if you have anything besides 2 1/6, you get a point for this. Each of these are worth 2 points, plus 1 for this, plus 1 for this. 39 is greater than 156 groups of 1/4. So if we had 156 groups of 1/4, that's like, I would do 156 divided by 4, and you find out that, sorry, I should have had my work done next to it, that is equal to 39. So that would be false because 39 is not greater than 39. 39 is equal to it, and there's no or equal to part down here. So that makes that incorrect. So that is false. And then you could have any number that is greater than 1/4. So thinking about 1/4, 0.25. If you have a whole number here, if you had something else here, as long as it's bigger than 1/4, you get that point, excuse me, there. This one means f divided by 4 is less than or equal to 3. So if I have 12 divided by 4, less than or equal to 3, well, 12 divided by 4 is 3, so that is equal to 3, and that's allowed because of that symbol, so that one is true. You could have any number over here that is greater than 12. So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That would make this false. So any number greater than 12 to get the point here. For this one, we would simply do 121 minus 98, and that gives you 23. And we're trying to see, is 23 greater than or equal to 23? And in this case, yes, it's equal to it, so that would be a true statement. Then to make it false, we need any number that was bigger than 23 over here. So any number bigger than 23 in this spot would make that correct. Then this one is 54 divided by Q. If Q is 10, I can kind of just move the decimal over there, so I know that's 5.4. That is not equal to 6, so that's a false statement. How do I make 54 divided by something equal 6? You have to divide by 9. The only option there is 9. So those are the only things we're going to take points on today. I will look over 6 through 9 when I get your papers. So 10 points total. Here's your scale. If you got all 10 of them correct, great job. Make sure you get a punch. 8 through 10 is an M, 7 through 6 is a P, and 5 or less is an E. Next, we are going to talk about your math test. So if you could, hopefully your teacher has passed out your math test to you, and then we can look at those answers here quickly. If you have not taken the math test yet, please do not watch the rest of this video as it will give you all the answers. Go ahead and pause and move to the next activity. So now we're going to go through the answers of the test. Even though the test has been taken, it is still always important to get feedback and to make sure we learn from any of our mistakes. So please make sure you are following along with each number. So number 1, most people did a great job of that. We had to distribute the groups here, and a great test strategy is to go ahead and solve for all of them and then see which ones work back, because we had to select all of the answers. You can't just find this first one and be done, because there might be numerous ones that worked. So the first 2 do work. This one and this one does not work, because if you're multiplying 3x, that would be 3 times 6 and x times x. That gives us x squared. It also gives us 3x groups of 8 or 8 groups of 3x, which would be 24x, not the plain 24s. Most people did a great job on that one. On this one, some people did like 3 times 6a in here. That's not what we learned for the expanded terms. We go ahead and solve for that part. You can look at the visual here. 3 groups of 6a plus 4b means that I have 6a, 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 which means I have 18 a's. And then 4b's, 4b's, 4b's means I have 24. Oh, not 24, 12 B's. Sorry about that. I was thinking of that one up here, I think. 12B, so that should be 18A plus 12B. On this one, you had to kind of think backwards and think, if this is 6, what's the other factor that would get me to 42? Because I'm using factorization. So what are the factors of 42? If one of them is 6, well, that would be 7. 7 groups of 6 gets me 42. So 7 groups of what would get me back to 35N? What's that factor? 5N. Some of you just put 5 there. Some of you put 35N. Remember, you have to distribute to both numbers. This one up here had some difficulty for some people. The expanded form was simply this outside part of the rectangle, 5 times 6 plus g. So we had 5 length times width. Should have been pretty simple. Then the factored version was the little rectangles inside here. So this 5 times 6, which should have been 30. And again, if you just gave me 5 times 6, that's not what the review said. That's not what we did in class. If we had 5 times 6 and we can solve it, we go ahead and solve that. Then 5 times g. Some people forgot to do that little square rectangle right here. 5 times g would be 5g. So here is the factored, or here's the factored version. Here's the expanded form. Then we had exponents. I was pretty proud of our success on this. Expanded form is just the long way. Standard form is what the value of it is. Cubed means three-dimensional shape, length, width, and height, and all of those would be the exact same. So expanded form is 4, 4, 4. Standard form is the value of that. 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 is 64. Exponential form, no accidents in math, it's called exponential form because it's written with an exponent, so that should have been the 4 to the third. On this one, you need to make sure that you answer the question, is she correct? No, and justify your answer. This was worth 2 points. 3y, when we substitute that 4 in, juxtaposition tells us that we're doing 3 times 4, and that value would be 12. Y cubed means 4 cubed, which is 4 times 4 times 4, which is equal to 64. So they are not the same thing. Number 8, we did a lot of great work here. A lot of people followed PEMDAS, was able to go in order through all of those pieces, and they came up with 25. Here we had a couple of computation errors for some people. The 15 times 11 got some people. That was 165. Some people made mistakes copying this 50 down. They started making it a 5. So make sure that you look over this one and see if you made an error, where your error was. 10, some of the wheels kind of came off the bus here. We were doing a great job, and then all of a sudden we just went to subtracting and then dividing. A lot of people did 64 minus 18 first, then they divided. They killed their patient because they sewed them up too early. Some people also made the mistake of 8 squared was 16. You've got to know those exponents by now. 8 times 8. Repeated multiplication. So this answer should have been 55. 11 was a silly error. A lot of people got Ariana, but they did not answer C. You've got to keep reading. It says evaluate and explain the mistake of the other person. So if Ariana is correct, what mistake did the other person make? A lot of people said he didn't use PEMDAS. He didn't do the parentheses first. He actually ended up going just left to right instead of doing parentheses first. So if you missed this one because you didn't read and you didn't answer anything there, please, please, please learn from that silly mistake. Then we did a great job of answering our coefficients. Those are the co-pilots or the co-workers with that variable, so it's 4. The terms are 4x and 7. The constant is that plus 7 there. It's not going to change for that term. And then the variable is x. That's the thing that's going to vary. Number 14, you had to remember that it was term by term. You can't combine the 7 and the 12 together to get 19 BC because these are different terms and they're unlike terms. But this term, we can change the order of how they're done and get 12B plus the 7C. On 15, If you made a mistake, it was generally because you didn't read that there were 2 ice cream cones that cost X dollars each. So I need to do 2 groups of ice cream cones plus the milkshake. This one, a lot of people had trouble with that. Withdrew half. So she had $25. She increased it by M, and then she withdrew half of her savings. Some of you did a minus a half. But if I had $50 and I minus half, 50 minus half a dollar is $49.50. It's not half of the group. I was looking for half of the group here, which means we needed to divide by 2. Or you could have done half of a group of 25 plus M. That's another way to write that. The best way would have been this way because you didn't need parentheses and it's more efficient. If you wrote it left to right, you needed to analyze that and see 25 plus M divided by 2. Do I need parentheses? Yes, because otherwise I'm going to do M divided by 2 and then add $25, and that's not what we wanted. And then finally, 17. This was Y divided by 8. So the ones that were division, decreased, that means subtraction. Divide, yep, that's what I'm looking for. Sum means add. Quotient means divide, yes. Difference means subtract. So the only 2 that even have division questions in them is these 2 here. So B and D. This is a really important test that kind of shows about your pre-algebra skills and thinking about how you performed on this test for advanced math next year. So just kind of learn from any mistake that you made and make sure that you have that understanding of things because it's going to continue to build on each other.